Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the American Dream podcast hosted by the Aiken Chamber of Commerce. I'm Jim Tunison, President and CEO, joined today by Dan Goodwin, owner, operator of Fox and the Bee Farm. Dan,
Good morning.
welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So for folks who might not know, just give a kind of a brief description of, what Fox and the Bee Farm is and the
Sure.
products that you guys have.
Sure. My wife, Julie, and I own a small farm here in Aiken, and we produce farm goods. So everything from fresh vegetables and fruits. We have blackberries, blueberries, all kinds of seasonal vegetables. And we also have bees. And bees have become kind of the core mission of our small little farm. We strive to use everything. So my wife uses the honey in our baked goods. Honey wheat bread is a specialty. She loves to make that. And we use the beeswax for our lotions and soaps and candles.
Mm-hmm.
And we're at the Aiken Farmers Market every Saturday. And our website is foxandthebeefarm.com.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So we'll get into kind of how the idea came to be and how you guys got to Aiken, but let's rewind it a little bit and talk a little bit about your personal background. Where did you grow up? What were your personal hobbies, interests, and all that good stuff?
Yeah, so Julie and I both are from small farming communities on the West Coast. We were high school sweethearts. And, as we talk today, you'll kind of understand that we've come full circle. So we grew up in small farming communities. And then we went off to college, and our mission in life at that point was to get as far away from the small farming community as possible. When I graduated from high school, I actually probably never ventured 5 or 6 hours outside of my hometown. I'd never been on a plane. So when I went away to college, we just wanted to get out and experience the world.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we did. And at this point, I've visited all 50 states. We've been able to kind of travel around the world, and like I said, it's come full circle because at this point in our lives, we really just wanted to get back to that small farming community. But we were both on the West Coast, and I had job opportunities that eventually took us around the country. We lived in San Diego, Los Angeles, Portland, Oregon, Chicago, Boston.
Wow.
So we really kind of experienced the entire country, and ultimately ended up here in Aiken. And
Yeah.
I can explain that how that came to be as well.
Yeah. So as far as, first job out of college and that sort of thing, what really launched your career and, eventually getting to Yankee Candle, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, exactly. Kind of a crazy journey. So in college, I needed to pay, I was a struggling college student, so I was living on top ramen and macaroni and cheese like every college student. So I had a part-time job. I worked in a retail store in the local mall.
Mm-hmm.
And I was fortunate enough, this company had a partnership with Levi Strauss.
Okay.
And Levi had a scholarship, and every semester I applied for that scholarship, and I was fortunate enough to get that. So Levi Strauss actually helped pay for my college career, especially, at the time. I don't know if colleges use books anymore, but books were very expensive. Yeah. And so it was really a nice thing. And I have degrees in business and political science. Mm-hmm. And I think like most college students, or some college students, what I thought I was going to do with those degrees turned out to be exactly opposite of what I did with those degrees. So when I was ready to graduate from college, the company approached me and said, "Hey, we have this executive leadership program we would like you to be part of." Mm-hmm. And so it was not what I planned to do, but I jumped at the opportunity. And it was probably one of the best decisions I ever made. I was way too young to be making life choices, but it was a good life choice at that point. And one of the things about that program is I was able to, work in different departments. So for a year, I would work in HR. For a year, I would work in real estate. And throughout my career, I've worked in real estate operations. I was a buyer. I was in the apparel world. So I bought denim. I was in allocation. Like I did all these different functions of the business. So ultimately, towards the end of my career, when I had at any given point 6,000 to 8,000 people under my umbrella in all these different departments, I had some experience in each one of those departments. So while I certainly wasn't an expert in any of those areas, I had, I had the knowledge and and experience so I could relate to the situations that, the team members were going through. And it gave me a little bit of credibility, I think, with the team as well. So
Mhm.
that's ultimately what took us around the country, was just different positions within organizations. And I was, primarily on the West Coast in apparel. And like I said, I was, I can remember being a buyer for men's denim when baggy jeans were really like the craze.
Yeah.
And now I'm looking at things, I'm like, oh, baggy denim's back in. I should go be a buyer again. But I ultimately, like 15, 20 years into my career, I got a phone call from a recruiter, and they wanted me to take a position with a fragrance company. And I have no experience in consumer packaged goods on the fragrance side of the business. And so I said, no, I was like, it's not even worth a conversation. Like, you guys, you don't want me. Why would you? I have no experience in that area. But they were very persistent. And I ultimately flew out to the East Coast and had a conversation with them. And I fell in love with the company. An all-American brand. As you mentioned, it's Yankee Candle. I worked for their parent company, but it was Yankee Candle. And the culture, the fact that this guy in the 1960s, he made a candle in his garage for his mom. And that's how he started the business.
I didn't even know how.
Yeah,
started.
it's
That's
like,
cool.
it's just such a fascinating story. And like I said, it's an all-American story and an all-American brand. And so I just kind of, at that time too, there were so few all-American brands left, because of corporate buyouts and things like that. So I really, really just, I remember flying back home, and I told Julie, I said, you're not going to believe this, but I really think I want to do this. And I said, the corporate campus, it's like the Disneyland of candles. Like, it really is, if there's such a thing.
Yeah.
And the leadership was incredible. So, I was convinced, and I ended up spending more than 15 years there. And
Wow.
ultimately I was the vice president of their retail division and direct to consumer for North America.
Okay.
I had a peer in Europe that had the European business, so we were in tight partnership. But I had all of North America, and like I said, all those departments ultimately fell under my umbrella. So I had, pieces of marketing, allocation, HR, real estate. I had all of those at the end, and every single one of the gray hair came from that too, because especially when you have so many, you have so many time zones and time, you have factories, you have stores, you have all of these things. Like, it's 24/7. There's never a point where you don't feel responsible for something that's happening somewhere. And whether it's a small HR issue, or whether it was, something happening in the supply chain or a factory somewhere, there was always something happening.
Yeah. We, feel a little bit of that. We have a small team. There's only 5 of us, but over 900 members. So
Exactly.
I don't have the hair, but it would be great if, if I did. So we were talking the other day a little bit, one unique experience that you got to be a part of was the pop-up shop in New York City. Were there any others that really stood out in your mind, or like, wow, this is cool, and could only be because of where I'm at in my job?
Yeah, New York City, when we did the pop-up there, that was definitely one that stands out. We, for 3 months, we did a pop-up in Soho, and it was during the holiday season. So, at that point in my career, having HR and all the hiring experiences and things that go along with that, until you've tried to build a team in New York City during the holiday season, like, don't even think that you have.
Don't complain.
Right, exactly. So it was ultimately just such a rewarding experience, but it was also such a challenging experience. Just the hiring situation alone, and the cost of hiring in the city was phenomenal. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it was a great experience. But beyond that, there's been so many incredible experiences that I've had with just different team members. Like I said, I've been able to visit all 50 states. So, some of my most memorable trips were to Alaska.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, just, I've been to Puerto Rico. We did some things there, but there's so many different extremes in the country, and just different communities. And it was always such an incredible opportunity to meet different people in different areas of the country. So
that's cool. And being in those types of roles, I'm sure you learned some valuable lessons. I'm sure can apply to what you're doing today. Is there anything that sticks out in your mind that like, wish I knew that, when I started, or anything you could
Yeah.
pass on to someone thinking about taking a similar role?
Yeah, I think when I first started out of college, there was a VP of HR, and he was the least HR person that you could ever imagine. And he was just he was incredible. Like he was just told it exactly like it was. And his first piece of advice to me was, at the end of the day, you have a business to run. You have a bottom line to meet, but you need to do the right thing for your team. Like, always do the right thing for your team and you'll never go wrong.
Mm.
And I've seen leaders, the ones that I admire and mentors in my career, they've always done that. Like, whether you're reporting to a board of directors, to Wall Street, whatever it may be, you have to deliver profit, right? But the best leaders take into consideration their team along the way. The worst leaders, and trust me, I've seen some of them as well, are short-term thinkers, short-term leaders that are only concerned about the bottom line and really don't take into consideration the team. So this VP of HR, he said, just do the right thing. Do the right thing for your team. Do the right thing for your business. And you know what the right thing to do is at the end of the day. And he said, some of those decisions are the toughest decisions you'll ever have to make, because the easiest thing to do is just to gloss over something, to walk away from it, pretend like it's not there. And the hardest decisions are those that, you have to make. You have to make some really tough decisions at the end of the day, but always consider your team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's great advice. And it's so simple, but like you said, there's situations that pop up and it becomes harder to do that, especially when it could make or break your year too.
Exactly.
So that's pretty interesting. Well, so you had tremendous career in retail, took you all over the country. How the heck did you guys wind up in Aiken?
So I said in the beginning, it's a full circle. So my wife and I both grew up in a small farming town, and we couldn't wait to get out of that farming town, right? So on my side of the family, there were 5 brothers and sisters, and they all had acreage, and they were dairy farmers. And so I grew up with that. I knew what farm life was like. And, as Julie and I kind of moved around the country, when we became empty nesters, our kids, we had 3 different children, and they're all wonderful, and they were all at different areas of the country and points in their lives at that point. And it was 2020. There was a pandemic, and Julie and I had a vacation plan that got canceled. And we looked at the map and we said, well, where can we go? And Savannah was open, so we flew to Savannah. And I'd known of Aiken. My wife has always been an equestrian, so, horses and things like that. So we've known of Aiken. So when we went to Savannah, I said, well, let's just do a little road trip back to Aiken and check out some property and things like that. And we just fell in love with community all over again. We knew it was a great small community, but when we were here, we stayed at the Wilcox, and they were wonderful. And we met a lot of the downtown merchants, and we just got such a tremendous sense of, this is just a really great small community. And we kind of fell in love with it. We found a small farm and the house, and we took a chance, and it was, like I said, it was a pandemic, and we just kind of said, why not? We're at this point in our lives, and we wanted to get back to that farm life. And we wanted to do something that was simple. I knew that ultimately I wanted to retire and get out of the corporate world. I was ready for that. And Julie had always been in early childhood education. She was a teacher early on, and then she was a stay-at-home mom. And it was just at the point in our lives where we wanted to get back to the basics of everything that we ran away from in the beginning. And we love it. We absolutely love it. And the best part of it all is, at the time when we moved, our oldest son was in Nevada, our daughter was in California, and our youngest son was in Arizona at the University of Arizona. And we moved across the country. And within 2 years, they all found us.
That's awesome.
So, my oldest and his wife relocated to Aiken, and we have an incredible grandson. So they're like literally 10 minutes away from us now. So that's an incredible thing. And we absolutely love that. My youngest son, he was in Arizona. When he graduated, he landed a job in Greenville.
There you go.
2 hours away. So he works for Fidelity in Greenville. And then my daughter is working on her master's in music here in South Carolina as well. So we joke that they all found us, and we make it saying, you know, it's like, oh, we tried to get away from it.
Yeah.
But in our own hearts, we're like, oh, this couldn't have worked out better. So
that's awesome. So you guys are in Aiken. The family came down with you. That typically happens here, right? You know, in Aiken, once they get a little taste, it's like, all right, when can we sign on the dotted line? What can we move? We're retired, right? Still are.
Right.
You're in corporate life, you know, your whole career. What gave you the itch to start your own little business?
Right. Yeah. So we didn't set out to start a small business. So I retired, but I knew that I wanted to, you know, be involved in the community somehow. And we had this farm, and we knew that we wanted to make the farm work for us. So one of the things I remember growing up is my great aunt, who was one of those 5 brothers and sisters that had, you know, they were farmers. She grew up in the Depression. So I remember vividly, she had this room that was all canned goods. Like if the world ended, like she could have survived for 10 years. Like, you know, everything that she grew on the farm. And so, you know, that's where I learned how to can preserves and stuff like that all came back to us. And so when Julie and I started, you know, taking advantage of the farm and growing produce and you know, doing all these things, we were giving produce to neighbors and preserves to neighbors. And somebody said, oh, you should go to the Aiken Farmers Market. And so it just became this thing that we did, and we really, really, really enjoyed it. And we still do the farmers market. And we met, again, so many great people in the community, and it just kind of grew from there. And then I had this wild idea that I wanted to be a beekeeper. And so I took the certification through the Aiken Beekeepers Association, and I met some incredible people there and did that. And the bees, kind of, like I said, kind of grew into the core of what we do at the farm. And it just grew from there. So we started doing the farmers market. And then, you know, because of my background, it's like when you have somebody that says, oh my gosh, I love your product. Have you ever thought about doing this? And the part of me that is so used to those goals and objectives, and you want to deliver at the end of the day, you know, like, yes, I can do that. I can do that. There's that passion in me.
Never leaves it.
It never leaves. I'm like, of course I can do that. Why wouldn't I want to do that? And so Julie and I, we just, you know, continued to do the farmers market. And then we built a website, and we started doing events. We did the steeplechase 2 years in a row. And things just started to grow, you know, where we were getting people that had seen us at the steeplechase and purchased goods from us at the steeplechase. And suddenly we started getting requests and orders from Charleston and, you know, all these different places where people, you know, that had come in for events had found us. So not only were we getting requests from the local community, but we started to venture out. And that's again where that passion inside of me says, well, of course we can do that. Let's do, you know, let's try this. Then we're kind of at that point where now we've got to say, okay,
what do you want?
We're like, what do we really want to focus on? Because there's so much, but there's still, you know, I just had somebody at the farmers market last week that had requested something that we've not done in our beeswax lotions, and I'm like, yeah. You know, I'm going to figure out how to do that for you, and I'll get back to you. So, so we're at that point. So we never intended to really set out to grow this small business, but it's turned out that way, and we love it. And people ask us often about a storefront, and we did the pop up with the chamber, which we loved, and we appreciate that opportunity. So you know what, if that happens, that happens, but it's not something that we're, you know, we have to do it tomorrow. It would have to be the right location, the right time. We want to make sure that if we did that, we did it right. So right now we're really happy with doing the events in the farmers market and our website, but you never know. You could see a storefront with Fox and the Bee Farm sometimes.
Well, hey, that's exciting. So, you know, you worked with a large corporation, had really everything at your disposal, and now it's just you and Julie, right?
Great.
What's been?
Well, let me clarify. We have a 4-year-old apprentice grandson that has a bee outfit, and he, while he doesn't actually inspect the hives with me, he thinks that he does. So
supervisor,
exactly. So it's he really runs the show.
That's right. That's right. So what, I guess, have there been any struggles or early successes or been like, well, man, crap, I can't call anyone to do this. I have to figure it out myself. What have been some early lessons learned just from this little experiment for you guys?
The partnerships within the community. So even with the bees, so beekeeping,
Hmm.
at the farmers market, there are three farmers that sell honey, and one of them is the president of the bee association, and they're all absolutely incredible. So I would say, key learnings is making those partnerships within the community, and it's been amazing how supportive
Hmm.
everyone is. Those three individuals that I'm talking about, we all sell bee product, right? So it would be super easy for us to be very competitive and
Hmm.
not share information. And I found exactly the opposite, especially like the president of the bee association, super nice guy. He and his wife, always willing to share information. And said lessons learned, like this is a funny lesson learned, but so I had my first swarm, like bee swarm,
Hmm.
and I was out. Our bees are right in the middle of all the vegetable crops and all that kind of stuff. And so whenever I walk out there, I'm in their flight pattern, so they'll hit me in the head and stuff like that, and they never bother me. But I walked out the other day, and they were just like really like aggressive, and something different is happening here. So I looked up, and the tree behind us is there's a swarm, like a
Mm.
big swarm back there, and I never had that happen. So immediately text, Jason, the president of the BS. I'm like, I don't remember this from the certification. What do I do? To pet
Right.
it.
This wasn't
And he was super helpful. Like he was texting me all this information, like do this, do this, do this, as if I had, known exactly what I was doing. And I was stressing out. And then his last text to me was, but be careful. I'm like, okay, I'll do my best. So I would just, in terms of lessons, like just the partnerships are absolutely important. And then, there's crazy things along the way that, you become overly confident in certain things, and you need to take a step back and just learn lessons and apply them, go forward.
No, and you guys, I typically would ask, how have you plugged in, but you mentioned it, right? You kind of dove in with both feet. Farmers market, bee association, you guys
Yeah.
joined the chamber. I mean, you're very active. You're doing, events, the steeplechase, Aiken's making. So, as far as how other people watching can get engaged, I mean, I think you hit on a lot of that. But I'll ask you two last questions here. You said you've been to all 50 states, all around the country. What in your mind makes Aiken the best place to pursue the American dream?
I would really say it goes back to what we were just talking about, the community.
Hmm.
So, and you would know better numbers than I do, but I think Aiken as a population is about 30,000, but the greater Aiken population is 100,000 plus, right?
Hmm.
So while I know, Aiken is growing, at its heart is a small community. And we feel that every time we're at the farmer's market, like you feel that sense of this is a great community. And for the most part, everybody's just really, really willing to help out and share information. And, like I said, with the bee president, but there's also other great examples. My wife is a baker, so we sell our baked goods
Hmm.
at the farmers market as well. And through one of the events at the chamber, my wife met another baker, so who has a storefront, right? And it would have been, again, very easy for that individual just to, close off
Hmm.
all that information. And she was so incredibly helpful with pointers about, what she learned at the farmers market and what she's learned through the chamber, what she's learned through partnership. So I think, Aiken offers that sense of community and that willingness to share and celebrate successes of other businesses, even though they might be direct competition, right?
Hmm.
Like I said, there's three other guys that sell bee products and honey.
Hmm.
There's a lot of other bakers. There's bakers at the farmers market, but the willingness to celebrate each other's success, I think is wonderful, and we've found that here in Aiken.
No, it's such a great answer. That's what I often tell people too. The community spirit here is unmatched, and like you said, um, you can feel that everyone's cheering for you. They want you to succeed because if you succeed, just kind of a rising tide lifts all
Exactly.
boats
Yeah.
mentality. It's very special. We're blessed to live here, work here, and promote it. In what we do. But I'll give you the last word a little bit here. If you want to dive into product line, what do you want people to know about Fox and the Bee Farm, and where can people go to learn more?
Perfect. So foxandthebeefarm.com is our website, and you'll find all the information you want on the site. And we're, like I said, we're at the Aiken Farmers Market every Saturday from 7:30 to 11:30. And we have all of our beeswax products, so our soaps, our lotions. My wife bakes like crazy. There's never a want for something good in our house. And she brings those products to the farmers market every week. In fact, she has an industrial size bread oven that, speaking of community, like when that thing was delivered to our house, it weighs over 500 pounds, and I just had no idea what I was in for. So a lot of people from our community helped like come over and place that thing. And I told her, I was like, once it's set, it's not moving again. But so come visit us at the farmers market or check out our website. And we're always willing to, that passion in me, that goal setting, we're always willing to try new things. And if you have a request especially in terms of the bee product or baked goods, my wife is always up for that challenge. Her entire side of the family is Norwegian. So that's another cool thing about the community is my side of the family is German, her side is Norwegian. And so as she's kind of introduced different baked goods at the farmer's market that, like kringla is a great little bread cookie, Norwegian bread cookie. And she did that one week at the farmer's market, and out of the blue, there was this person that came up and she's like, she goes, "Are you Norwegian?" And she's like, "My family's Norwegian. We have these every year during the holidays." So it's a special little connection too that you make with the community. So yeah, come visit us at the farmers market or check out our website, and you never know, you might see us with a storefront someday.
There you go. And I can attest the products. Well, the baked goods are delicious. The pies, the cookies, the soaps aren't delicious, but they're great too. Candles, everything. You guys do such a great job. The presentation, I mean, it's phenomenal. So keep up the great work. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
And for those watching, just remember to make today a great day for business in Aiken, South Carolina.